as we move on to our next panel discussion. Now, large language models, which I'm sure many of you are well aware, LLM, are redefining the way we process and interact with information. So our next panel will discuss what it takes to build Malaysia's own LLM, one that reflects our language, our culture, and our values. And with that, allow me to introduce our moderator for this session. We have Wing K Lee, CEO of YTL Communications, and our esteemed lineup of speakers, Professor Engineer Dr. Chee Seng, University Malaya Department of Artificial Intelligence Faculty of Computer Science and Information Technology, Dato Dr. Fadhullah, former Executive Chairman, Malaysian Communications and Multimedia Commission, Mr. Fong CEO of YTL AILABS, and Khalil Nooh, co-founder and CEO Mesolitica Malaysia. Truly an esteemed lineup of panelists that we have. Mr. Wing K Lee, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Julie, and good afternoon, everyone. I understand that this is towards the latter part of the day, but I promise you this session will be super energizing and exciting and keep you on the edge for a very good reason, because we are talking about how AI can actually preserve the nation's sovereignty, which I'm sure you guys can understand how important it is for nations to preserve their sovereignty. We have been having armed forces and so on and trade treaties to ensure that we are protected from a sovereignty perspective, but in the digital world, we are now at the next frontier when it comes to protecting our sovereignty in the world of AI. There was a very nice picture of me just now when I had full hair of black hair. I missed that picture. We should bring it back later. So AI is here. And for Malaysia, it is not just about innovation. It is about sovereignty, self-determination, and importantly, inclusion. AI should be for everyone. Our ability to build and deploy AI that reflects our country's value and culture will define our place in the digital world. In Malaysia, we have made tremendous progress when it comes to digital infrastructure. We top the region when it comes to data center growth. We are also one of the best in the region when it comes to 5G deployment, critical for AI diffusion. With our 82.4% nationwide population coverage of 5G, we now have a high bandwidth, low latency backbone to ensure AI can be distributed equally throughout the nation. Now, in today's panel, we'll explore a bold idea: how a Malaysian-built large language model can indeed help us preserve our nation's sovereignty, can support our country's culture, and help us reduce our dependency on foreign-made technologies. Joined by us today is a distinguished panel. Starting from my left, of course, is Khalil Nooh. Khalil Nooh is the frontier when it comes to deploying Malaysian large language model, having done so already at Mesolitica. Then we have Fong. He is the pioneer in AI. He's been doing it for 15 plus years. He didn't just start doing it after he joined AI lab at YTL. He's been doing it for 15 plus years. So he can talk about AI from the ground up with all these years of experience. Then we have Dato Dr. Fadhullah Malik. His name requires no introduction, but I'll introduce him anyway. He was with Pemandu that helped with the National Transformation Program. And subsequently, he became the MCMC chairman, which is the regulator of our telco and post industries. He will share his perspective when it comes to ethics and regulatory. And last but not least, on the far left is Professor C.S. Chan. He is a distinguished academic in the area of AI and LLM from the University of Malaya. So gentlemen, let's get started. Our country's collective data, whether it is data from the government, from private sector, or individual citizens, collectively becomes a strategic national asset. Let's discuss the vulnerabilities if we were to overly rely on foreign-made technologies such as LLMs when it comes to handling this data. I start with you, Prof. Chen. Okay. Perhaps you can talk about how controlling data and the models behind it can actually help preserve our country's sovereignty.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, Wing. I think first of all, that's how we create the ilmu. Okay, we start with data first, all right? As we all know, I mean, data, in particular for Malay language, is one of the low resource language. So when I mentioned low resource language over here, it does not mean that Malay is not important, but it's just that it was only being spoken by about, I would say, 30 millions of the population in this country. So this is relatively important when we build ilmu. We started off with data first, okay? So the way that we curate the data, the ways that we then scan different documents from different agencies, that makes us a bit different from the rest in terms of this data governance and data sovereignty, because some of this data eventually we license from some of these different entities that we have in the country. So this is one of the way. That's why Malaysia, we need to build our own large language model, not just to tell the world that we could do it, but eventually is to preserve, what Malaysia is today. So that is one of the main reasons. It's not about just a model behind it, but rather is the evolutions, how we could do these things all together. That's why our tagline for ilmu is made in Malaysia, for Malaysians, by Malaysians. Yeah, thank you very much.
Just a follow-on question. What other country have done it? And have they done that successfully?
I would say in terms of open source, we probably have France, Mistral, they have done it. It's a open platform. And I can't remember the name, but I know that probably Saudi as well. They have a models that is being on this either. But if you look at these kind of efforts, again, if you look at Mistral, is from France. Again, it's French. Even though not just being spoken in France itself because it's other part of the world, but it's still, you see, how it's much more lesser than people speak English and Chinese in the world. So that is where I think not a lot of people are doing it, because much of the people thought that the emphasis is on the model itself, but eventually if you are building auto-regression model, means it's a text output model, the community have shared a lot of this open source, and we have learned over it for the past 2 years. So the barrier of building this kind of model is getting lower and lower. That is where a collective effort needs to be done, not on the technology side, but the human side need to have it. Because in YTL and the University of Malaya, I think we spend a lot of efforts in not just curate the data, but annotate the data as well. Because unfortunately, I will say that only Malaysians know Malaysians. So that is where we spend a lot of time on the data curation and annotations. Yeah. Back to you, Wing.
Good stuff, good stuff. Chee, question. As a CEO of YTL AILABS, what approaches are you taking to develop AI solution that caters to Malaysians?
Thanks for having me, Wing. The difference between the previous generation of technology and this newest type of technology called generative AI is that generative AI is highly contextual, right? So unlike, like, say, mobile phone or internet, like everyone uses the same iPhone, everyone uses the same internet. AI, however, is highly contextualized towards how we live, how we talk, and how we communicate with each other, and it's even about how we eat, for example, right? So what we did is that we have to drill down into a lot of our culture, exactly how we live, and try to digitize those information to be learned by the large language model so that it can be used on our daily lives. So, and these kind of large language model technology will be different, will be highly contextualized for Malaysian, and it will be different from, say, it cannot be used in Thailand straight off the box, simply because the Thai has different way of living. Cannot be used in Indonesia because the Indonesian have their way of living, their way of governance, and everything else. So we have to go down very deep into the lifestyle of Malaysians.
Very important. Kyle, would you mind to share your perspective in terms of how you've built the LLM in such a way that it respects the country's culture and values?
So from Mesolitica's experience, right? training now Malam 2.5. We knew when Llama 2 came out, this was the time that anybody, that means a big company or even small companies like us, if we are bold enough, we can train our large language model. So this is what we did. December 2023, our first version, but the effort to curate the data was twofold. That means 4 months to collect data from open web, another 4 months to prepare. And the selection of data has to come from both the formal and informal, from government, parliament, legal documents, as well as from social media, forums, to capture both sides of the formal and informal, bahasa rojak, bahasa pasar, those kind of nuances in colloquial languages, in order for the LLM not to reply, but just to understand our colloquial way of speaking, especially bahasa rojak. So that's part of the quote-unquote culture. In order to increase the language proficiency of any LLM, we still have to unlock private data sets that are either in document form or in government agency, especially dalam bahasa pustaka, right? So there's a treasure trove of data sitting there for any LLM to unlock. Of course, once we have access, what is the governance layer to allow that the use of any AI that we develop or other people that develops in this country is safe to use for the rakyat? So it's twofold from where I sit.
Thank you very much for sharing. Actually, your ideas echo each other very well. So I think great minds think alike. So now AI development is certainly accelerating around the world. Communications network such as 5G is also accelerating the flow of information, be it good or bad. So let's explore next few minutes what responsible AI means from an ethics perspective. Doc, perhaps I can ask you a quick question about how AI innovation and societal responsibility play out. One is going very fast, the other trying to go slower. So how do we play this out together?
Thanks, Wing. I think when you think about it, innovation must happen without any controls. Then you think you can do anything that you can dream of, right? But at the same time, as we run, we probably will trip. Question is, do we want to fall hard on our face or probably just fall without injuring ourselves? And therefore, when you talk about governance, ethics, AI is this tool that you can have that you can do it either for good or you can do it for bad. Okay? And therefore, when you think about it, you need to think about the guardrails, not so much to regulate and control the innovation, but simply to provide the guidance of where the innovation could happen and should happen. Okay? Because at the end of the day, as Chiman and even Khalil mentioned, you are taking on the way of life. Okay? And therefore, if you do not have guardrails, as you try to adopt the way of life into a technology, then you are bound to have a technology run wild, which will in turn affect us at the end of the day. Okay? So, having said that, I'm not a big proponent of control, but I'm a big proponent of guardrails. Okay, that's very, very important, which can change over time, and it's a recursive way of managing things. Okay, because no law will ever be ahead of technology. That's the reality. It always lags behind.
As a follow-on, Doc, in Malaysia, we do have a number of important regulations like PDPA, Personal Data Protection Act, and just today, YB Gobin announced the National Cloud Computing Policy. So what else can we do from a regulatory perspective to provide that guardrail to ensure that we have safe and responsible deployment of AI?
Personally, I don't think you need any more laws. Okay, what you want is actually to convene both the government and the industry and look at it from a perspective of what would the risk be and how we then protect ourselves, okay? And that usually comes in the form of guidelines that could be reviewed on an annual basis if need be, okay? Because that allows you to provide room for innovation, okay, without the stringentness of a law which requires the parliament to approve.
Thank you very much. That's very important. Thank you, Doc. Now, Chiman, you've been serving on the NAIO for a while. Especially since the beginning, actually, of NAIO launch. So perhaps you can share with us from a governance perspective, what guidelines are there in NAIO to actually identify biases and to ensure ethical use of AI?
So NAIO is having the very hard task of coming out with guidelines and potentially regulations as well on a moving train, essentially, because AI is moving so fast. It's a very challenging task. And the main thing about regulating AI ethic in this day and age is that it becomes, it really depends on the technology that is uncovered almost on a weekly basis. So a few things that NAIO, I think I cannot speak for NAIO, but a few of the committee that me and Khalil and Dr. Chan were in, we talk about potentially how to reflect upon how AI is being used in sovereignty and how to define it, and how to use the data ethically and how to share the data ethically, and potentially on the talent part of it as well. What are the regulations that we need to do, or what are the encouragement that we need to do to get us on par with other countries in terms of talent? Those are a few things that we heavily looking into.
Thank you. I think this morning, YB Gobina was very clear in the government's vision that we want to be a digital hub, not just in the region, but in the world by 2030. That's a bold statement. And for that to happen, we must have the proper national vision, but importantly, public-private partnership to achieve that. So I think we are doing our part in our own way to contribute. Now, let's switch to another topic about how LLMs, especially Malaysian-made LLM, can actually contribute to societal benefits. So for essential sectors like healthcare, public utilities, and so on, I wonder how a locally made LLM can actually help enable businesses and public services, and at the same time protect our national sovereignty. So perhaps I can go to you, Khalil. You've been deploying LLM already, and I wonder if you can please share some success stories how Malaysian businesses are using your LLM.
Okay. Early on when we before Malam, we used GPT 3.5 and 4 APIs, right? Just to understand how you actually build chatbots today. That means 2023 timeline, right? So this is like a new way of building next-gen chatbot that is conversational. So we wanted that experience. So that's why we ended up with Microsoft first. From that experience, we understood, okay, it's either we go SME or we focus on the public sector, right? As one of our business strategy. And we found out that it's easier to talk to the government back then, because they were eager to upgrade their chatbot. And they were fascinated by, oh, ChatGPT. We want a chatbot that is ChatGPT. So we went for that, okay? So that is what we've been focusing on. That means public sector engagement, to get them to at least experience a chatbot that is LLM powered, so that we lower down the expectation. Because everybody's coming to us with high expectation, not only on the performance, but also, oh, can I already talk dialect or not? So, okay, wait. Let's chill on the dialect first. Let's just make sure that Bahasa Melayu standard is good. Right, so that's what we wanted to do. But of course, while we were focusing on the public sector, we also see a lot of local startups that wanted to build the same thing, but for SMEs. So we collaborate with other local AI startups that wanted to build chatbots for either e-commerce or FAQ for websites to get them to understand, okay, this is the how you build it, one, understand the unit economics and cost structure, because so that you don't depend on the big tech. Eventually, right? Yeah. So that's our success this past two years in terms of the actual engagement on the ground. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing. I mean, government use of AI to actually improve service quality and efficiency is an important topic. In the 13th Malaysia Plan, Doc, the PM announced the bold vision to expand 5G coverage to 98% of the country for the purpose of ensuring AI is equally distributed throughout the nation. So, perhaps you can talk about, from a public service delivery perspective, how that could actually level up our civil service and the citizen experience.
I think if you look, I mean, we are all so blessed to stay in an urban area. Complaining an hour's drive takes us maybe 20 kilometers, okay? But people who are in a rural area, for them to travel out is always going to be a huge, huge challenge, okay? For some, it's a boat ride plus a bus ride, and then they have to walk, okay? So imagine to and fro is always a challenge. And sometimes simply to renew a license, for example. So connectivity becomes highly important, okay? And I think when we had 4G, I'm sure many of you will have remembered during the pandemic days, you know, the infamous Viviana who had to climb up the tree to get a signal for her work as a student. I don't think we want to have that kind of scenario yet again, especially when you embrace AI. Okay? And therefore, connectivity becomes very important. So as far as the 13 Malaysia plan is concerned, certainly we have to target and drive connectivity for as far as possible. In fact, 5G, 98% does not mean that the balance of 2% of the country is not covered. You can use other technologies to do that. And AI is not just strictly over 5G, although it's best over 5G because of the extra low latency. So hence, when you talk about that, and then as Khalil mentioned, the government is excited to extend the services. I'm sure many of you would have remembered the use of the centers that the government did, where like Pudu, the old Pudu bus stand became the urban transformation center where you could do your services all at one go. Those of you who stay in Shah Alam, and even all the way out as you travel up to Ipoh, you have those. But those are still physical. Now imagine that you can do it over your phone. Okay, the phone penetration for this country is crazy, right? We have a population of 30 million. Phone penetration probably hits close to 40 million. Okay, so some of us may carry 2 phones and things like that. And because of that, technology becomes embedded in your phone. AI enhances that, and connectivity effectively allows you to use that. And that is why connectivity becomes a very core foundation for any of this to happen. And I think at the same time also, if you have cloud and Malaysia being a data hub, that makes it even more important to have the right level of connectivity. And hopefully, 5G, we will be able to see the promise of what 5G promises in the lab right out there for us, for you and I as end users, and enterprises as the other set of users.
Thank you, Doc. So this morning I was on a panel with the other folks from Microsoft and from Google, talk about the national cloud policy. And I share an interesting story. I just want to echo a point that Doc just made. When Doc was MCMC chairman, he made absolutely certain that when we deploy 5G, that we deploy to 80% of the country's population, including places that typically would not get covered on day one, like Kota Baru. For those that are not from Malaysia, Kota Baru is actually in the northeast part of Peninsula, quite near the Thai border. And it is considered more of a rural Malaysia. And I got a chance to visit some of the customers of ours that are using our 5G service in Kota Baru. And I met this lady who is a Shopee seller. She has no shop, but because of 5G, she's now able to use Shopee to reach the entire Malaysia. And there's a lot of good herbs in that part of Malaysia. So she used those herbs to formulate perfumes that actually smells really good. I have a sample. I don't use it. I give it to my wife. So long story short, she was able to make 60,000 ringgit a month simply because she had a 5G line and an entrepreneurial mind. 60,000 ringgit a month is well above national average when it comes to income level for a lady in Kota Baru. So I can't imagine when we have 98% population coverage of 5G, and with these bright minds here, along with many others, deploying AI services, what kind of improvement to economic for this country can see. I think this is so, so, so exciting. Now, obviously, all of us are here today because we're excited about the future. But we're also quite clear-eyed about the challenges ahead. So let's explore some of the challenges. Now, obviously, having sufficient compute capability is important for AI. So on our part at YTL Group, we have invested in a 500 megawatt, actually now 600 megawatt because of efficiency gain, of data center park in Johor. With that capability, we're able to host our GB200, NVIDIA GB200 AI cloud, where our Ilmu resides on, to provide high-quality, world-class AI supercomputer that can be enjoyed by Malaysians throughout the country. Having said that, that is only what YTL has done, and of course with Ilmu. We need a whole-of-country approach towards overcoming those challenges to ensure that we can indeed be a digital hub by 2030 for the world. So, Prof. Chen, how can the academic institution help nurture the next generation of talents so we will have the actual smart workforce to enable the use of AI?
Okay, thank you, Wing. I think first of all, this is how Ilmu was built. I think first of all, the industry and academic collaborations need to go much more stronger than ever. And with this project, eventually, it's proof that Malaysia is not lack of talent, right? And the second thing I want to emphasize that the local education in this country is strong as a foundation. YTL and University of Malaya, in collaboration with University of Malaya, we built the Ilmu for this country. I think first of all, it can show that as long as the local talent is being given an opportunity, they will be able to shine. But a lot of time, it's just that this local talent has not been given a right stage for them to perform. So in that case, then unfortunately, then some of them leave the countries and to go to a place that appreciate them. So I think a much more stronger connection between the industry and the academia is one, foster a much more stronger relationship. But second is to entrust. I think this is the most important element. A lot of times, when I encounter this kind of AI-based solutions, Malaysians is much preferred to a solution that's done by overseas country than rather that is a local products. I think we need to give this kind of opportunity for the local products on here. Malaysia as a whole, we need to move from a user countries to a creator countries. That's where I think the industry and the higher educations can play a major role in this area. Yeah.
Spot on, thank you. We have to be creative, we cannot just be consumers. Yeah. Spot on. So, Doc, a top of mind question for many is that while AI is super exciting, there will be some degree of job replacement. So how would we synergize the various government initiatives such as MOSTI's AI Talent Roadmap, MDEC's Program for Talent Hub, and HRD Corp programs to ensure that we can reskill and upskill our workforce to minimize any impact and enjoy the upside?
I think this whole myth and fear that AI will replace humans out of their jobs, I don't believe it is so. What will happen is that we will change jobs, okay? We'll probably even change the functions of our jobs, okay? So imagine years ago when we had the Industrial Revolution, okay? From the agriculture to industrial. People just had to change the functions. So they still had a job. So likewise, today for Malaysia, if we have a roadmap towards the deployment of AI, identifying the areas where AI will be growing, and then the government agencies together, both public and private sector input, could then start to train people along the lines of how can they do better, okay? Or revisit the tasks that they have and figure out how can they augment it. Let me give you an example. If some of us were to fall ill, and you have to go to hospital and you need to do a biopsy, that biopsy needs to be looked at under a microscope by a pathologist to then diagnose you at cytology level what is the diagnosis. Okay? It takes you, for the pathologist, at least half an hour or so simply to look at the slide. And another half an hour to probably write it down to say, okay, what will it look like? And the turnaround time could take you as long as an hour. Therefore, the poor pathologist can only cover 8 patients a day if he works 8 hours, right? But with AI, that could be reduced down to only 10 minutes. 5 minutes for the AI to read the slide, and 5 minutes for the pathologist to verify and sign and certify the findings of the AI report. That gives you 10 minutes per hour. That gives you 6 patients per hour. Look at, and you multiply that by 8, so that you've got 24 patients that you can deal with a day. So that augments the ability of the person. So certainly, I think all the government agencies, not just MOHR, I think every agency needs to have that upskilling policy, be it Ministry of Transport, Ministry of Agriculture, and so on and so forth. And that cannot be just left strictly for Ministry of HR, or Higher Education, or just Ministry of Education. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. Whenever Doc talks about medical stuff, I pay attention because he's actually a doctor. So we call him Doc not because he's got a PhD. He's actually a medical doctor by training. So if you guys don't feel well, just see him after at the end, at the bottom, at the back of the stage. Thanks, Doc. Okay, Khalil, as an AI entrepreneur, I'm sure you have your fair share of challenges. There are some senior level government folks here. So what are the top 3 requests you have for them?
So the top 3, I would say the top one, the most important. I mean, even the engagement that I have at the policy level also acknowledges this. So we need a better, I would say, a better road for procurement from public sector or government, especially for the local startups. Right? Better procurement, because a lot of horror story, quote unquote, horror story from my friends, there are also startups where they build the product, they go into certain government programs in the hopes that, okay, once we hit certain milestones, money comes. I mean, it's all cleared, right? Instead of before, it was like a grant, now it's a conditional grant. But the company, because we are operating lean, we are operating very minimally, cash flow management is very important. So if the expectation of money that comes down to certain programs take a long time or delay for whatever reasons, unfortunately, the startup has to close down. The runway is finished, right? Because they were dependent on that. So for us, we avoided that because I'm hearing a lot of these stories. This is what I avoided. But we went for a different strategy for being scrappy to ensure that we have enough runway to do our R&D, do the things that we do today, continue to open source a lot. I mean, the whole reason I'm here is because we are open sourcing a lot of things, right? That's one aspect. But from the government, because Mesolitica had this first mover advantage, we will be able to talk to a lot of people trying to understand or learn from our experience. So apart from the ability to build the products, is to make sure that the local startups get paid properly on time, so that we can continue to iterate on the product and grow the business, right?
Back to the earlier point about government services, how AI can actually improve efficiency. I think that's right on the nail. And on our part, obviously, we are not the government, but from YTL perspective, Chee, perhaps you can talk about the MITEC grant that we announced yesterday.
Great. And I just want to echo Doc as well. I also go see him whenever I feel sick. But I just want to echo that on the job loss standpoint, I think AI is being used in a lot of places where we are sorely needed a lot of services, like for example, government services, right? So there is very little country in the world that says, okay, we have too much government services, right? So by providing AI into government services doesn't mean there is a loss of job. It just means that at this point, we will get more government services. Same thing with customer services. There is very little company that has too much customer service. So these are the area that we can apply a lot of AI, and yet we are quite far away from observing like a job loss situation. Is what we should be concentrating on. On the MITEC grant, we're partnering with MITEC by providing up to $1 million USD of ilmu tokens for startups or even any companies, even companies from abroad. You can apply for it, and along with that, you don't get just free tokens to develop your product. But what you also do is that you get MITEC support potentially on the application of getting visa for the engineers and to get digital the MD certification for the company as well. And hopefully by that, we can form a very strong AI builder community in Malaysia with like Malaysian companies, Malaysian startups, Malaysian companies, and also companies from abroad as well.
Awesome. So AI has definitely gone mainstream. And you know AI has gone mainstream because when Tetla interviewed this fellow and this fellow about AI, you know AI has gone mainstream in Malaysia. I'm also on Tetla, except that I'm on the back, some Christmas party photo. These guys actually have a proper feature on AI, so this is the real deal. So we have exactly 5 minutes left. Let's do a lightning round. One question, and just give us a quick and short and sweet answer. So looking ahead, if you want to be a regional AI hub, what would be a successful outcome look like to you? Starting with Prof. He's been thinking hard. He's been doing a lot of reasoning behind, multi-shot reasoning. There you go. What does a successful outcome look to you in 5 years' time for us to be an AI hub?
I think for us to really successful in the next 5 years, I was still looking at the local talents. I mean, without talents, we can't move very far ahead. So I would say that Malaysia have a lot of young, bright talents in the country. Please utilize them. They will be our success story, I mean, to become a regional hub in the next 5 years.
Thank you. Doc.
For me, in the future, my view is that my vision is that in everything that we do is all AI laced. Okay, that's it.
Thanks, Doc. Chiman.
I'm always a startup guy. I think startup solve problem efficiently and very fast. So having a very good ecosystem for startup, I think will be the indicator of success for us.
Excellent. Khalil.
For me, 3 things on AI as a hub and sovereignty is infra, data, talent. And for the talent, echoing the Prof. Chan, is local talent, yes, but the local talent has to also interface with the external talent. So you got to find the Malaysian abroad, connect with him, and then connect to other expertise in the field. That you open up, you don't be the Jago Kampung. You look at the world stage.
Excellent.
In terms of talent. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Now we have 3 minutes and 14 seconds left. Any questions from you guys? We have time for perhaps 2 questions. Anyone? Yes, there's one back there. Gentleman back there, and maybe you can just shout. Or I don't know whether there's a mic. You can take my mic if you want.
There's one mic.
Oh, there's a mic coming to you. All right, fantastic.
Hi, good evening. My name is CK. I am from Education Faculty, University Malaya. So my question is ilmu suitable to use in Malaysia context? I mean, the LLM is developed based on Malaysia context, but we have international students. We are doing research in international landscape. I mean, for education faculty. So, in your opinion, is it suitable to be used in education faculty?
Okay.
You're a professor,
yes,
right?
Definitely is a LLM. I mean, the ilmu has been created. I mean, of course, especially for Malaysian. But eventually, if you look at it, I mean, the whole reason that we define ilmu, it can definitely be used by international student or anyone's a part of the world to do so. But what ilmu is so special, I mean, in difference with the rest of the LLM in the world is that it understands first our national language better, which is Bahasa Melayu, and it also have better enrichment in terms of Malaysian culture, Malaysia traditionals, so and such. But if you wanted to use it For example, in the education, to summarize your documents, to understand something about, you want to create a passage that there's no problems on it, because ilmu is going to work fine, exactly like what, for example, GPT Gemini has been doing. But the emphasis is on the PM. All right, so do you answer the question?
Let me add a little bit also, like a large language model, despite its name, it's not just about language, it's about knowledge as well, right? So the reason why we want to build ilmu is that it is being imbued with a lot of Malaysian knowledge, right? So, and with that, so a lot of research can be done, especially within Malaysian context on ilmu, and with any other large language model. When it comes to international student, it is possible. It can also speak French as well. It can also speak Chinese and any other language that Malaysians don't speak. It's just that it is specific and is really good at Bahasa Melayu, which means that the French speaker can easily translate it to Bahasa Melayu and do their research as well.
Perfect. We have exactly 5 seconds left. Any last thoughts before we wrap up? All good? Gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming and say thank you to our panelists.